It's the worst of the CBC Blackface edition on September 19th, 2019. The show where I watch the CBC so you don't have to. All right, let's just admit, today's all about Justin Trudeau wearing blackface. That's all in the news. The number one takeaway I'm going to give you, and the number one thing I will say, and I believe here, is it is absolutely ridiculous how this story is getting more coverage than the SNC-Lavalin affair. This is the level of 24-hour coverage it should have been when Justin Trudeau was shown to shut down the RCMP investigation into his massive corruption scandal around RC and the SNC-Lavalin. There are so many videos on this page dedicated to SNC-Lavalin. We won't go into it now because we have to get to this. Now, Justin Trudeau wore blackface 3 times, right? In 2001, he's trying to say, oh, you know, he's a kid. Whatever. He's 29. He's a teacher. He was older than I am now. I'm 28. He was 29 when the first picture came out. An Arabian Nights costume. There's also 2 other incidents we now know about of him in blackface. So how did the media cover this? So the omission is the SNC. The worst story is, okay. So I saw them interview Jagmeet Singh. And they were asking Jagmeet Singh, intersectional nonsense, left-wing mumbo-jumbo. Everyone was hurt and injured and, terrible. But they were asking him questions about, did he see what Andrew Scheer said? And what does he think of Andrew Scheer's not accepting Justin Trudeau's apology, but accepting the apology of his racist candidates, whatever. And they did the same thing to Andrew Scheer. And Andrew Scheer had said that he accepts apologies, but this is an insincere apology because Justin Trudeau apologized when the first picture came out, said there was only 1 incident. Now we know there's at least 3 incidents. So because he was lying, it's not a real apology, which is a good thing from Andrew Scheer. But we just need to take a minute and talk about the racist conservative that Andrew Scheer is standing by here. What did Gita Malik say? So what happened was in Mississauga, there was a ad put out by the ICNA encouraging girls to put on the hijab. And she said, why are we encouraging women to put on the hijab? This seems a bit controversial. There's a lot of Iranian women who would agree with this sentiment. Look up White Wednesday or My Stealthy Freedom. There's women in Iran being beaten for improper hijab and being imprisoned for not wearing the hijab, or being in prison for defending women not wearing the hijab. So this is a real conversation within the Islamic world going on right now that we're just that everyone thinks is Islamophobic or racist off the bat. Number 2, who is the ICNA? The ICNA, Islamic Circle of North America, is an incredibly radical organization. Very, very, very radical. Okay? On their website, they say that Islam is not compatible with Western values. Straight up. Islam and democracy are not compatible. Courtesy ICNA. If Andrew Scheer said that, that'd be controversial. 2, they are a big supporter, were a big supporter of Anwar al-Awlaki until 2010. Anwar al-Awlaki was the chief recruiter for Al-Qaeda. Okay? They recommended books by him, called him a great man until 2010. Okay, that's 9 years after 9/11. 3, on their website, they're very, very, very pro-sexual slavery. They have many different links to guidebooks that outline the importance of sexual slavery. They link to different sheiks that talk about the importance of sexual slavery. They even link to a sermon that says, you're not a real Muslim unless you support sexual slavery. So they're incredibly pro-sexual slavery. So this is what's not being talked about here. So I'm just going to explain that little controversy to you there. Now, let's get back to the blackface incident. Okay. So then Justin Trudeau just delivered an apology I watched. It was a intersectional jibberty-jabber. It made, microaggressions, privilege, intersectionality, blah, blah, blah. He just droned on and on and on. The media was clapping during it. Like, there were so many intersectional buzzwords. He accidentally got a degree from Concordia University in gender studies in the last hour. True. All right. Now, let's just take a deep breath and talk about how we need to talk about these issues. So, blackface is blackface. All right? It was racist. So in the 1920s, right, Jim Crow era, blacks were not allowed to be on stage with whites. You couldn't see representation of black people in movies or on theater or whatever. So what they did is they had white actors put on a black face, right, with a stupid grin thing, a horrible caricaturization of black people, and they'd make silly movements and jive around, and people would laugh at, ha ha ha, the blacks. Horribly racist, right? Blackface. There is another thing of, okay, so that's one side. That's one end of the gradient. That's the extreme. Like, that's evil racism. Then there's the other end of this, which is like, people are getting mad at little white girls in Iowa for dressing up like Moana for Halloween because that's cultural appropriation, okay? That's actually something good. That's, something evil. We have these massive scaling problems that are sort of hurting our ability to talk about these issues in a way, right? The number one example of this would be the Me Too movement. I can just use comedians, right? You have Bill Cosby, who is a horrible rapist who deserves prison, and you should throw Rotten Tomatoes at a maximum outrage rapist. Then you have Louis C.K. here, who did something wrong, but that's not criminal, right? So, we can talk about redemption here. Then you have the Aziz Ansari thing, which is, again, he did absolutely nothing wrong. It was just a bad date. The worst thing that happened was the woman wrote an article about him not having psychic powers, right? As soon as I said no, he stopped and then paid for my cab home to make sure I got home safe. Like, she was the bad person here. So we have these scaling problems where we go to maximum outrage as soon as there's something about Me Too or Blackface or any of these, and it doesn't do anyone any good. So one thing we have to talk about is, like, this was a thing from that is really in our past mostly, which is why it's a bigger deal into 2019 to be in blackface in 2001, because most of the people who experience this are gone. And I did find it funny that they were interviewing people in the streets, and some of the half of the white people were like, "Oh my God, I can't, no," and then pretty much 99% of the brown people that they just randomly interview were like, "It is a costume. I don't care. I'm a human being who's resilient enough. Like, I don't care. This has not affected my life in any way. He wore a costume." Because again, other than Jagmeet Singh, who's who's basically dead now. Jagmeet Singh's basically dead, right? How would Jagmeet Singh ever recover from this? Right? Again, this type of stuff doesn't really have a history outside of the North American black experience. So Justin Trudeau colors himself for an Arabian Nights thing. Okay, where does that fall on the gradient? That's an important question to have. The other thing is, okay, there's 2 other incidents of him wearing blackface. Now, during his apology, he said, he said 2 things which makes he's lying. One, he didn't even cry. But okay, the other thing, more seriously, is he said he didn't want to talk about these incidents because he was so embarrassed. And also, they happened so long ago, he couldn't recall them. So he couldn't recall them, but he was embarrassed by them. So we know he's lying about one of those things, and the media has not picked up on that yet. All right. So the Arabian Nights costume party, where does that fall? That is not the same as being in blackface and mocking black people. But one of the other times he was in blackface in high school, we do know that he admitted that he was up there singing the Deo song in blackface. So this is a lot closer to the traditional blackface, and I actually think this is where you actually have something where no, that's a bit unacceptable. For this is he put on black makeup when as a black man and went, Deo, daylight come and me want to go home. That's pretty close to what traditional racist blackface is, if that is true. So, where is he on this gradient? Now, the other thing we have to talk about is, okay, what are people responsible? It's 20 years ago, we can have that conversation. But what we do know for sure is if Andrew Scheer had done this in 2001, Justin Trudeau would be in front of cameras right now. He would be at your house, knocking on your doors, advocating for the return of the death penalty in Canada for Andrew Scheer wearing blackface. He would say every black person is now under threat, and Andrew Scheer needs to die because of this. This is the worst thing ever, right? He is a big fan of Canada's racist and terrible, right? He just went up there and said there's systemic racism in Canada, in the universities, in the schools. There's racism everywhere. It's not my fault, but it is my fault. So we know that he is not living up to the own standard he set, right? Those in glass houses should not throw stones here, and Justin Trudeau is throwing stones in a glass house. The other thing is, this was the position of the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party started their campaign by digging up dirt and trying to rehash old things said by random Conservative candidates to try and get them disqualified. This is sort of their underhanded, dirty tactic they tried. Now it's sort of come to Justin Trudeau himself. So here's your mutually assured destruction right now. So what do I think about this? Should Justin Trudeau resign? Yes. Is he evil? Yes. Is he unfit for office? Yes. But we know that because of the SNC-Lavalin scandal. If this is your tipping point, this just shows how much of a hypocrite and how much of a fraud he is. That is really what this is really about. So, will this affect voters? Probably, because we weren't really informed on what SNC-Lavalin was. Now, is Justin Trudeau a racist? No, it's going to be hard to make that thing. If you want to say anti-white racism, okay, fine. There's different things, but no one's really buying that because he did this, 20 years ago. This makes him a racist today. We can all talk about there's nuance here, but it's amazing that we're now having that conversation in the media and we didn't have it before Justin Trudeau. And if you want to see an example of just how biased the media is here, right after his press conference, he says, he starts shaking hands with all the media reporters, and they're in the media, they're literally falling, you could see the expression, oh my God, he touched me. He bought me a poutine. So there's a double standard here. That's bad. There is a cultural zeitgeist where, we can't tell the difference between 1% bad and 100% bad. There's very little difference in reaction, and that's giving us sort of this sort of fatigue where, in this case, with Trudeau, right, where if he is putting on black makeup and singing Deo, then, that's not good. That is certainly in the tradition of the blackface. So does he owe an apology? Yes. Is this a disqualifying thing? No, but there's so many things that do disqualify Trudeau from office. So those are my views here on the blackface, brownface controversy. I hope it sinks the Liberal Party because I love Canada and they are destroying it. What was worse, this or the fact that he gave a terrorist $10.5 million? Like I can probably list 15 things off the top of my head that are worse than this brownface scandal just from Justin Trudeau in the last 4 years. But we don't have the time. And you know what? I actually might do that video. So thank everyone for watching. What does this CBC episode get on the Rosemary Barton scale? Rosemary Barton actually looked really hurt last night. It was funny watching how much pain she was in during trying to do it, being forced to do some active journalism. So I'll say 8 out of 10 on the Rosemary Barton scale, and I will see you tomorrow.